Let's paint a robin with watercolor paint. Robins are like my favorite birds, and I would love to show you how to draw and paint one. So grab your paint supplies and let's do this. Let's start with an HB pencil and drawing a few basic shapes. So for this robin, we are going to draw like an oval shape around here and then a smaller oval shape on top of that. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's like the head and the body of the bird. And now we are going to attach those together like this. So we are having a really nice chubby robin, and then it is around here we can draw the tail of the bird, and then something like this. And I always like to do a bit like this. Doesn't need to be perfect. Later on with the paint we are going to paint that in very nicely. Now, of course, we need to draw a wing, and for that I like to start, well, somewhere above the center, a little bit more to the left, and then go downwards to the right, something like this, and then we are going back, and then somewhere around here. And then when you have done that, you can look and see if your dimensions are all right. And then the beak, and let me see where I like the eye, around here. Of course, some legs around here and here. Like this. So I'm going to use a soft eraser to erase the lines that I don't longer need. I don't want to have that in my end result. And with a kneading eraser, we are going to lift off the pencil lines. Now grab your watercolor paint and I'll be starting with a size 6 round brush. And first I like to paint using some burnt umber, like brown color. And we are using some water so that the paint is diluted. And we are going to start above the eye of the robin and trying to stay within the pencil lines. Like this. And I like to use some water to wash it out even more. like this. And now while the paint is still wet, I like to get some more pigment on my brush and then follow a few of the places where I have already been. And I really love it to use this for some raw lines and details. Like this. And perhaps some raw sienna as well. Just dropping in those colors and let the paint do the blending. Now for the rest of the body, I would like to, well, for the lower part of the body, I like to use a lighter color. Something like this, washing it out a bit. I like it to be a little more brown, so I'm using a little Van Dyke brown. And now you see, because my wet paint touched the other wet paint, it's blending in together, but it's just this watercolor effect that I personally really like. So I'm going to keep it like that, using a bit burnt umber gently on the sides here for some shading. And now the coolest part of painting a robin, I personally think, is the orange. So I'm starting with a very light orange and going to paint the face of the robin very gently because our paint is still wet. And I want to use some darker orange as well. Now there are some parts here I think can be a little bit more dark. So I'm using indigo blue for some more shading. And now for the legs, I think I'm going to use some burnt umber to paint those in. Perhaps dropping in a little bit of orange here. And now I like to let this dry before adding some extra details. Now, using some indigo blue to paint in the eye. And you can use the tip of your round brush or pick a smaller brush. And we are also going to use this for the little beak. All right. Now I like to add some details, so I'm using a smaller brush for this. So with some burnt umber, we are going to paint some stripes on the wings here. On the wing and on the tail. And I like to add some small stripes on top of its head. And with some orange, darker orange, I'd like to add some stripes right here. And now with some white gouache, I'm going to put the finishing touch on the eye. If you like to, you can paint a branch like this to make this beautiful bird sitting in a tree on a branch like this. Alright, and then I like to use some sap green to paint a few leaves. pick up a bit darker green for some extra shading. So now I want to do a few finishing touches. For this, I'm grabbing my teeny tiny brush and I'm picking up some darker green to add a few details on the leaves. And I want to add a little bit more details or dark colors on those claws, because when we painted that tree, we kind of washed it out a bit. Alright. And now it is finished. Our cute birdie. I hope you like this.